Inspector Arjun Singh knew the sound of a crowded street the way some people knew music. He could hear patterns inside it. A scooter weaving too fast. A vendor calling out a price that didn't match the usual rhythm. A cluster of footsteps that didn't belong together. On that afternoon, the street market in Jaipur was alive and bright. Strips of fabric hung above the stalls to soften the sun. The air smelled like fried snacks, crushed mint, warm dust, and incense drifting in from somewhere nearby. People moved shoulder to shoulder between carts of mangoes, bangles, phone cases, and small brass statues that caught the light. Arjun walked along the edge of the crowd, eyes steady, posture relaxed. He was on foot today, not because he had to be, but because markets asked for walking. A uniform and a loud engine could make a market tighten up. Arjun preferred to let it stay loose. He had just nodded at a chai seller he knew when a young man bumped into a spice stall, knocked a small tin onto the ground, and froze like the world had suddenly turned too quiet. The tin rolled, ringing softly on the stone. The young man looked down at it as if it had betrayed him. Then he looked up and locked eyes with Arjun. For half a second, the young man's expression was pure alarm. Not guilt. Not anger. Just fear, sharp and immediate. And then he ran. He ran straight into the crowd. Arjun did not shout. He did not whistle. He did not make the market a stage. He simply moved. At first, it was a brisk walk. The kind of pace that said, "I noticed you, and I have time." People stepped aside when they saw his uniform. Not in panic. Just in instinct. The young man pushed between two stalls, ducking under a line of hanging scarves. Arjun followed, careful not to snag anything. He heard a vendor protesting, but the words dissolved into the general noise. The young man glanced back once, then sped up. Arjun sped up too. The chase stayed oddly quiet inside Arjun's head, like he'd stepped into a familiar routine. It was not his first chase through a market. It was not even his 10th. Markets created chases the way rain created puddles. Someone ran. Someone followed. The street decided who moved where. But there was something strange about this one. The young man didn't run like a thief. He didn't run like a local kid playing a reckless game. He ran like someone with an invisible clock ticking above his shoulder. He kept touching his face as he ran, pressing his fingers to his cheekbones and jaw, as if checking that everything was still in place. Arjun took note of that. He took note of everything. The young man swerved around a cart of guavas, nearly collided with a woman carrying flowers, and whispered an apology without slowing down. That, too, was unusual. Arjun's boots hit the stone with steady rhythm. He raised his voice just enough to carry. "Stop running," he called, calm. "You'll knock someone over." The young man didn't stop. But he did look back again, and his eyes had the frantic shine of someone trying to keep a secret from the air itself. Arjun kept following, not angry, not excited. Focused. They cut through a narrow lane where the stalls were tighter and the smell of perfume oils mixed with hot metal from a repair shop. A mechanic looked up, wrench in hand, watching them pass like it was a movie he didn't have to pay for. The young man turned sharply, almost slipping, and grabbed the wall to steady himself. His hand left a faint smear on the plaster, darker than sweat should be. Arjun noticed. He always noticed. The young man's breathing sounded wrong too. Not heavy enough for how fast he was moving. Not ragged enough. More like someone imitating breath than relying on it. Arjun's mind quietly rearranged possibilities. Tourist in trouble. Someone running from someone else. Someone scared of being recognized. Someone in the wrong place at the wrong time. He wasn't ready to decide. He just kept moving. They burst into a slightly wider area where a row of food stalls faced each other like friendly rivals. Oil crackled in pans. A boy fanned smoke away from his face. A man in a faded shirt shouted, "Samosa, samosa," as if the word was a solution to every problem. The young man ran straight past the food, then stumbled as if the smell had hit him like a wall. He grabbed his stomach. Arjun slowed for a fraction of a second, then continued, because stumbling could be a trick. But the young man didn't use it as a trick. He looked down at his own hands again, and this time Arjun saw it clearly. The young man's fingers shimmered at the edges, just for a moment, as if the sunlight had decided to behave oddly. The outline of his skin blurred, then snapped back into focus. It was subtle enough that most people wouldn't notice. Arjun noticed. The young man's face tightened with panic. He hurried forward again, weaving through the crowd like he was trying to outrun the day itself. Arjun closed the distance slowly, deliberately. He didn't want the young man to bolt into a dangerous corner. He didn't want anyone to get hurt. "Stop," Arjun called again, voice still even. "I'm not trying to hurt you." The young man glanced back. His expression flickered with something like disbelief, as if he couldn't imagine those words being true. He ran harder. Arjun adjusted his route, taking the wider path, anticipating the next turn. He watched the way the young man avoided certain lanes as if he'd memorized the market's layout too quickly. That was strange, too. They reached a section where stalls sold cheap electronics and tangled chargers. A woman scolded a child for touching everything. A loudspeaker somewhere played a devotional song at low volume, almost drowned out by conversation. The young man pushed through, then suddenly stopped behind a tall stack of cardboard boxes, as if he'd hit an invisible barrier. He looked up, eyes wide. Ahead was a dead end. A small service alley with a locked gate and a wall covered in peeling posters. The young man spun, searching for another escape route. Arjun stepped into view at the mouth of the alley and lifted one hand, palm open. "Easy," he said. The young man backed up until his shoulders touched the boxes. His chest rose and fell in that not-quite-breathing way. He pressed his back against the cardboard, as if hoping it would swallow him. Arjun stayed where he was, leaving space. The market noise continued just beyond the alley, as if the city had decided not to pay attention. The young man spoke first, voice trembling. "I didn't mean to." Arjun nodded. "Then don't run." The young man's eyes darted to Arjun's belt, to his radio, to the simple fact of the uniform. "You're going to," he stopped himself, as if the sentence had too many endings. Arjun's voice remained calm. "What's your name?" The young man hesitated. His face shimmered again, this time longer, like heat distortion above asphalt. The outline of his nose and cheeks wavered. The young man made a small sound of distress and lifted both hands to his face, pressing his palms to his skin as if he could hold it together by force. "It's failing," he whispered. Arjun tilted his head slightly. "What is?" The young man looked at him, desperate now. "My disguise." Arjun's brows lifted a fraction. "Your disguise?" "Yes," the young man said quickly. I'm not what I look like. I came here and I only get 1 hour and I didn't plan this and now it's going to." He swallowed hard. "It's going to disintegrate." Arjun watched him quietly, letting him speak. He had learned over years of policing that people confessed the truth faster when you didn't rush them. The young man's hands trembled. "I didn't take anything. I didn't hurt anyone. I just wanted to see the market." Arjun nodded. "It's a good market." The young man blinked, startled. "What?" Arjun stepped a little closer, still leaving distance. "It's crowded, loud, confusing. It's alive. People come here for all kinds of reasons. Seeing it isn't a crime." The young man's expression faltered into confusion. "Then why are you chasing me?" Arjun reached into his pocket slowly and pulled out something small. It was a carved wooden charm, about the size of a thumb. It had a simple pattern etched into it, like waves or leaves. A thin cord was attached, frayed at the end. The charm caught the light. The young man stared at it like it was a lost piece of himself. "That's mine." Arjun nodded. "You dropped it when you bumped the spice stall." The young man's mouth opened slightly. "You chased me, to give it back?" Arjun held it out. "Yes." For a moment, the young man didn't move. His eyes searched Arjun's face for the trick. For the hidden angle. For the part where the officer laughed or grabbed him or called for backup. Arjun simply waited. The young man's fingers shimmered again. The edge of his skin looked thinner now, like a layer of paint peeling in slow motion. He flinched, then reached for the charm with both hands and took it carefully, as if it might crumble. His shoulders sagged with relief, so deep it almost looked like exhaustion. "I thought," he whispered. "I thought you knew." Arjun shrugged lightly. "I know you ran." The young man stared down at the charm, clutching it. "I ran because I'm scared." Arjun nodded. That part was clear. The young man looked up, eyes wide and wet, though no tears fell. "You're not afraid?" Arjun's expression was thoughtful, not dismissive. "I've seen many things in this city," he said. "Most of them are stranger than people admit." The young man's disguise shimmered again, and this time it did not fully return. Something beneath began to show through, subtle at first. A faint geometry in the air. A shape that did not fit human bones. A texture like folded light. The young man made a small panicked sound. "It's happening." Arjun held up his hand again, steady. "Okay." The young man stared at him, breathing hard. "You're really not." Arjun looked him over with the same practical attention he would give anyone in trouble. "Are you in danger?" The young man hesitated. "Not if I leave soon." Arjun nodded. "Then leave soon." The young man's mouth trembled. His form continued to shift. The human face was still there, but it was no longer convincing. It looked like a mask growing transparent. "Why are you being like this?" the young man asked, voice cracking. "Why don't you care?" Arjun thought about it for a moment. Then he said, honestly, "Because you dropped something, and you looked scared. And because the market is busy enough without adding fear to it." The young man blinked, stunned. Arjun gestured toward the alley entrance. "You can go." The young man glanced past Arjun, toward the crowd. "I can't go back through. People will see." Arjun nodded. "Then don't go through people." The young man stared. "What does that mean?" Arjun looked at the locked gate at the end of the alley. He walked toward it without hurry and examined the latch. It was old. The metal was rusted. It was designed to keep honest people honest, not to resist someone determined. He pulled a small set of keys from his belt and tested a few, then found one that turned the padlock with a reluctant click. He pushed the gate open. Beyond it was a quiet service road leading behind the market, lined with concrete walls and the backs of shops. The noise of the crowd faded there, as if the market had an off switch. Arjun stepped aside. "There," he said. "Less attention." The young man stared at the open gate as if it was a miracle. "You're helping me." Arjun shrugged. "I'm preventing a scene." The young man let out a shaky laugh. "That's very human of you." Arjun's eyes narrowed slightly with mild curiosity. "And you're not human." The young man looked down at himself. His disguise was nearly gone now. His outline shimmered in a way that made it hard to focus on him directly, like looking at a moving reflection. "No," he whispered. "I'm not." Arjun studied him for a moment. There was no fear in his face, only that calm professional attention again. "Are you here to hurt anyone?" Arjun asked. The young man shook his head quickly. "No. No. I came to see. To learn. I didn't expect how intense everything feels." Arjun nodded, as if that was the most reasonable statement in the world. Markets can be intense. The young man's form wavered. He clutched the charm like it anchored him. "I have to go." Arjun stepped back. "Go." The young man hesitated, as if he wanted to say something more important than thank you, but couldn't find the right shape of words. So he said the simple one. "Thank you." Arjun nodded once. "Next time," he added, "if you drop something, don't run." The young man made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Next time," he said softly, "I will hold my pockets closed." Arjun's mouth twitched. "Good plan." The young man turned and moved down the service road. As he walked, his human disguise finally gave up. It didn't explode or shatter. It didn't do anything dramatic. It simply dissolved. What remained was hard to describe, but not frightening. A shifting, layered shape that seemed to fold through itself. Like a living pattern. Like light deciding to become an object for a moment. It moved with purpose, gliding toward the far end of the road where the shadows pooled against a wall. The air there shimmered, just slightly, like heat above stone. The shape paused, as if taking one last look back. Arjun stood near the open gate, hands relaxed at his sides. The interdimensional being lifted one filament-like edge, almost like a wave. Arjun lifted his hand in return. A simple gesture. Human. Ordinary. Then the shimmer in the air deepened, and the being slipped through it, disappearing without noise, without drama, like a page turning. Arjun closed the gate and locked it again, returning the padlock to its place with a practiced motion. When he stepped back into the market, the noise hit him again in full color. Vendors shouted. Someone laughed. A child begged for a sweet. A scooter horn blared like it had been waiting. Maya the chai seller called out, "Arjun, you want tea or you want to keep jogging today?" Arjun walked over, calm as ever. "Tea," he said. "And make it strong." She poured it into a small cup and eyed him. "You look like you ran from something." Arjun took the cup and exhaled. "Just a misunderstanding." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "You catch him." Arjun sipped his tea. It was hot and sweet and steady. "Yes." "And?" she pressed. Arjun glanced down the lane, toward the alley he'd opened. Nothing unusual remained. Only ordinary walls and sunlight. He looked back at her and said, "He dropped something." Maya squinted. "That's it." Arjun nodded. Maya stared at him for a beat, then burst into laughter. "You chased someone through my market for a dropped thing?" Arjun's expression remained calm, but his eyes warmed. It was important to him. Maya shook her head, still laughing. "You are too soft." Arjun took another sip and said, "Don't tell anyone." Maya leaned back, amused. "I won't. But next time you run, you better buy 2 cups. Arjun nodded solemnly. "Agreed." And as the market carried on around him, loud and alive and perfectly ordinary, Arjun held his tea and smiled slightly at the thought that somewhere beyond the edges of the world, an unusual visitor was telling a story that began with a chase and ended with a return charm. A story that, in its own strange way, was also perfectly ordinary.